Hey everyone, this is Josh Newville,
And this is Steven Shutter.
and we are the Wild Minnesota Podcast. We'll be coming to you with episodes about everything outdoors.
We hope you enjoy. Happy hunting and safe
Uh,
travels.
Oh no. I feel like a 40-year-old man.
oh no. Uh, oh yes, dude.
All of that, word for word.
Oh man. This is my freaking dude right here, Ryan Minton. What is
Fuck
up?
yeah. What's up, Steven? Freaking podcast. Got your own little studio going now?
Dude,
Heck
yeah,
yeah,
man.
dude.
I just threw the furniture around. Tiff put some cool stuff on the wall. It's like a pretty much certified studio.
Frick yeah, go Tiff.
What's up,
Heck
man? How
yeah.
you been?
Dude, I've been good, man. Life is good. Unfortunately, I can't fish over here yet, but we're getting there. Hopefully.
Yep. And job's good now too.
Yeah, job's good. Well, I mean, it's work, but work is good depending on what kind of work it is, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, tight. So, welcome to the Wild Minnesota podcast. I'm doing an episode with my good pal Ryan Minton. Met him at Fort Carson. He's now in Germany. We're
Yeah.
just gonna go over some quick things about what he's done, where he came from, and what he's been doing since then. So, I guess first of all, I'll take it away with kind of like a background on Ryan and where it all started and what you've been doing and how you've been doing it.
Yeah, so I grew up in Virginia. Funny story, I grew up on, excuse me. I grew up in Buckrow Beach, and I lived on 6th Street. So I lived 6 blocks away from the beach, actually. But I never fished at all. And then I ended up joining the Army at 13 or in 2013. So I was 19 years old. Got stationed in Fort Lewis, Washington. I was down there at Joint Base Lewis McChord. And the cool thing about Fort Lewis was that with the Air Force Base attached, they had a boat program. So my buddy went in, took a class, 45 minutes, got his boat license, sponsored by the Air Force. He had a truck. They had trailer boats already. Um, the boats ranged from I think 12 to 18 feet. And whatever the gas was when you picked it up, that's the gas you had to bring it back in. And then
Right.
he actually introduced me into fishing. His name was Chaz. So we went out fishing a lot all over Lewis, or all over Washington State, I should say. And it was a pretty cool introduction to fishing. But I never really had a passion for it. It was more of just a hobby at the time to get out of the barracks of the Army.
Mhm.
Because, we worked all week, or, we'd be in the field training, all that stuff. And then the weekend would come and it was either party or go fishing, or sometimes it was both. And so that's what we do. And it was
Yeah.
cool because Fort Lewis had a lake on base attached, and it was called American Lake, and there was American or bald eagles flying around and all that stuff. And dude, super, super red, white, and blue. I mean, good God, you couldn't be in any more freaking America than that. It was just amazing. We'd be out there on a pontoon boat, or we'd be out there on a boat that could barely fit two people, but we'd fit four people on it, split the gas and split the trip and pay for the truck gas, and we were out there fishing. So then I went from there, fished a lot there, did a lot of freshwater fishing, then dabbled in some saltwater fishing, found out how important how having a license was for the correct fishing waters and fisheries, because I got off pretty easy with the Tacoma Police Department while I was saltwater fishing. We all were, and we didn't have the correct license. So I learned a huge lesson that day and realized what I was up against and the grace of the law. And pretty much, I think we got off with we each got, I think it was close to $1,000 tickets for
Shit.
fishing. Yeah, for fishing in saltwater without saltwater licenses. We were fishing for the wrong fish with the wrong tackle, the wrong equipment, the wrong time of the season. We had the wrong amount of poles per person. We had no idea what we were doing. We got off. I think in total it might have been 2 misdemeanors and maybe a felony, plus the impound and all that stuff. And we got off with almost $1,000 tickets each.
Oh my
So
God, man. And
yeah,
I think that's a huge lesson just in you can know you can think you're doing the right thing and you can think things are harmless and then shit can go south real quick.
exactly. Well, and that's what kind of started me on the awareness of fishing and wildlife conservation and stuff like that, because it's there's rules there for a reason. There, fisheries and hatcheries are there for a reason, and especially in the state of Washington, you can fish for salmon, but dude, it's been so long since I lived there, but I think that if you fish for salmon, you can only keep hatchery salmon. You can't keep wild salmon, if I'm correct.
Right.
So there's like rules and regulations to sustain the population and stuff like that. And that kind of opened up my whole eyes. And the whole story behind us getting caught and everything was just, it was so funny, but it was not. That was probably the worst day of my entire life. And I got off with a fat freaking ticket and I was so happy. But yeah, so moving on from that, we went to, or not I went to Germany after that. So I met my wife while I was still in Washington. We got married and then had my son Caden, and then we moved to Germany. And I still liked fishing, but I wasn't really like that into it. Like I said before, it was just kind of like a hobby thing. Like it was either party in the barracks or go fishing, and sometimes both. And so me and my wife and my son went to Germany. We had a couple more kids, traveled all around the world, and then fishing never really crossed my mind. Well, actually, it did, but when I looked into it, the rules and regulations over here are, and I say over here because I'm over here again in Germany, because obviously I went from Lewis to Germany to Carson. Now I'm back here in Germany. So the rules in Germany are a lot more strict. And to put it in their perspective, you can just go to Walmart or maybe even a corner store in the States and buy a license, and you can go fish, wherever you want. You can buy two rod, whatever. And if you have kids, you can take all those kids out, and all the kids can, if you're like me and you have 4 kids, each kid can be authorized 2 rods each. So I could go out there and set up almost 8 rods and be fishing by myself. But when the game warden walks by, it's like, hey man, I'm still under the legal limit.
Yeah.
Here in Germany, no, not at all. You have to take a pretty extensive class. You have to pay a lot of money for it. And then so what happens is these people, they own so you have people who own the land, and then you have people who own the water. And the people who own the land don't necessarily own the water. So if you go meet Bob, who owns the land, but Jimmy owns the water, you might have got permission from Bob, to go trespass on his land legally, but you don't have permission from Jimmy to go fish in his water. So you have to get permission from both parties. And then on top of that, you have to report it up to the German police, which is called the Polizei. Then you have to get authorization from them. Then whatever you catch, you have to actually log on a physical piece of paper, take it back to them. You have to confirm everything. It's super regulated. Everything is like super by the book here. But the one way to avoid that is to join like a fishing club. And so what they do here on post for the Americans, especially the soldiers who can take the classes, which I've not been able to take the classes I've been here yet because of training and everything else that's come up. The way I try to break it down to people who don't know anything about like the fishing in Germany, because I don't know anything about fishing in Germany, think of it like a rich polo club. It's like it's a cool club, and if you're not in it, you're not going to get to play. Because what happens was, like for example, on post here, you have to join the rod and gun club. Whether or not you're a hunter, whether or not you're a fisherman, you have to join the rod and gun club, because you're going to do one of two things. You're either going to fish or you're going to hunt.
Right.
And so both of those coincide with each other, and they create the same club. And so what you have to do is you have to be sponsored by this club. And then once you're sponsored by this club, then you do community work, you do outreach work, and you go throughout the communities and do all kinds of different things. You meet with German nationals, and you do all this like community service essentially. But what it boils down to is that you get a prorated discount as to like, hey, we're the club. These are all the people that we sponsor for the club, and here's all the people that are sponsoring the club itself. But all of these people have bodies of water. And to get past the whole land and water rights and the police station thing, the easiest way to do it is to join a club, participate in the club. And then once you attribute enough to the club, then you start getting access to these bodies of water for either no fee at all or a very small fee. So if you think about it,
it kind of sounds like you're paying to fish though. Like end state is you're just like buying into this whole like scheme of, hey, dude, be a part of the club. You're gonna have to pay your dues while you're here, and then eventually you can maybe get some access to some dude's water.
Yeah, no, exactly. But on post, so here in on post, and I won't get into like the demographics of the geographics of like what's on post and stuff, but obviously there's lakes and reservoirs because every major community has to have a sustainable ecosystem, especially when it comes to waters and reservoirs and things like that. So there's places that you can fish on post, but then once you start going off post, then you go out to like different states. I forget how many states Germany has, but I think it's 13.
Mhm.
And so the state that I live in is Bavaria, so it's like the southern state. So think of like Texas, except Texas takes up like 1/3 of the continent. That's pretty much where I'm at. It's probably a horrible representation of the size of it actually. But to put it into perspective, I've looked at getting a tourist fishing license up north, and the furthest point up north for freshwater is about 6 hours away, I think.
Yeah.
And if I were to go up north and get a fishing license and fish in all these beautiful areas in northern Germany, that license would only be valid in the state that I'm fishing in, possibly the state next to it. But then when I come back down to Bavaria, Bavaria doesn't honor those kind of fishing licenses. So it's kind of like and I'm sure it's more in depth than that. And I'm sure there's people out there who are smarter than me who can explain it way better. But that's just what I know off the tip of my tongue and the research that I've done. Because it's like, dude, I've gone from fishing so much, especially at Carson, which we'll get into, to coming here and essentially being stop lost and not being able to fish at all.
Yeah.
And because the thing is, like, and of course I have like the drive to like, oh, like fuck it, I could just drive out to like a random road and start fishing in the river or stuff like that. But then it's like, if I get caught or if anyone finds out about it, for some reason, I'm gonna get charged with poaching. I'm gonna get charged with everything, and then that absolutely ruins my entire like it ruins everything.
International incident, they'll make it this whole big thing, man.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't want to avoid that. So, dude, it's been killing me not to fish at all because there's water all around us, and like me and my wife and kids will drive on back roads and go look at rivers and lakes and stuff like that. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I'm like,
Dude, I can't imagine. Yeah, you're just getting blue balled the whole time you're out there.
exactly. But
Like,
but before,
go ahead.
oh no, I was gonna say before I got here, obviously I went from Fort Lewis in Washington to Germany. Obviously, wasn't really fishing that much because we were more focused on traveling, and then things kind of happened, and then I ended up at Carson, which is how I met you and a bunch of other great guys. And then obviously me and you were like way more into hunting and outdoors and stuff like that. And I I think it's interesting because I've never hunted, and that's why I love like piggybacking off you so much because I like to fish, you like to hunt, like that's kind of like two different worlds in a sense. And so it's
Yeah.
like we can just mesh together, and it's like, oh, that's so cool. I didn't even know that. Like I didn't even know how hard bow hunting was until you started talking about it. And then I looked into it and I was like, oh my gosh, like this makes fishing look like a joke.
Yeah, and dude, it's all the like, and a lot of that is something I hate too, and I try to stay away from it. Is like the TV shows because that's where a lot of the people are like Instagram. That's where a lot of people get their like intake of it, and it's like, man, a lot of that shit, yeah, it's really cool, dude. I'm really glad those guys like harvested and killed whatever animal they got to, but like some of those shows, dude, it's like, man, you can probably walk up and pet those fucking deer. You know what I'm saying? They're like shoot them out of the stand that they know they're gonna walk broadside at 20 yards right in front of them. So it's
Yeah.
but yeah, dude, no, for sure. It definitely is. And it's definitely a craft. And it's like I should be much better at fishing being from Minnesota, land of 10,000 lakes. Fucking the city I'm from had like 5 lakes that were all connected with they're like interlocking. They're all connected by channels. I was like, dude, I went fishing a couple times and I got like these little green like jelly worm things, threw it on a hook, tried to I was just casting that out. I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. It's like, I don't know, man. Someone said this can get anything. So I'll just be ripping fucking and what I really could do is we'd fish off a dock and you could just pick up panfish like left and right. You could literally put a worm on a hook and just like bloop it in the water and not even like reel or nothing, dude, and just like kind of bob it. And you'd have like these little panfish coming into it. And that was fun for me to do because I was doing it with like Tiff and Liam. And Liam was probably 6 or 7, so he was younger. So it was a lot. It was like he was able to be a part of it too. So it was really cool actually to do that. But man, I went through, dude, like some of the bass they catch, some of the like there's sturgeon up north of Minnesota. I'm like, these are like fucking dinosaur fish, man. I don't know how the fuck these guys are
Yeah.
catching this shit.
Well, dude, it's so fun too, especially when like you have. That's why I feel like fishing is I I love fishing to death. Dude, I'm all about fishing. I have like maybe like 10, 15 fishing poles, like way more than I need. But like everyone to me is like, oh, this one has a certain like the tip on this one is different. And my wife's like, what are you doing? Like we go to Bass Pro Shop every weekend. Like why? What are you doing? I'm like, no, I need this. Trust me. And then I go try it
Yeah,
out. Then I don't catch fish on it. And I'm like, "Ah." But
dude, and that's the same shit with archery, dude. You look at you go online, dude. Online is the worst shit. Like it's the worst place in the whole world. You'll start
oh yeah,
finding forums of dudes like there's this thing called a whisker biscuit, and it just kind of like it's like almost a full circle with a little notch cut out, and that's where the arrow can go in. And then there's all these
yeah.
whiskers that kind of keep it stationary, centered of the circle, the arrow. Dude, you go on that shit, and motherfuckers go down the rabbit hole of like how those little whiskers affect the fletchings, and that affects the trajectory of the arrow. And it's like, dude, I shot with that for 2 or 3 years, and I was shooting like up to 50 yards, and I was hitting like less than 3 inch groups and shit like that. It's like, man, it's. I heard someone say it about the internet. It's like it has so much information that whether you're right or wrong, you can find enough information. And I mean, this is like going rabbit hole with you. I'm sure you can take this
Oh yeah.
shit and run all day with it. But like, there's enough information. You can be right or wrong on any topic, but there's enough information for both sides to make each side right or wrong.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so going online sometimes can be like a bad thing, or you trying something, do something new, and it doesn't work. You're like, damn, dude, that was $100+ down the drain.
But that's like the same thing with fishing too, man. You got the motherfuckers that like invest in fishing poles and they like to spend money. Like I'm kind of like a middleman. I'd say I'm middle class when it comes to fishing. Like I'd like to invest money. I like to have nice things. Like I have a couple nice rods that are like mid tier. But then, I have like the same rods that my kids have that I got from maybe the PX, like the post exchange on an army base, that are like maybe like $20. And it's like they probably caught more fish than me off of that. And
Yeah.
it's like I and it's like you have the motherfuckers that are out there at the lakes and they're like, oh, I've caught 7 fish on this fucking rod that cost $20, and that guy's over there fishing with a $450 combo, and it's like, fuck you, dude. Nobody asked.
Yeah.
We get it. The water can carry your conversation and your sounds, but I don't even know your name. Why are you telling me this? That used to happen. That used to happen. There was this one guy that used to happen all the time at Fort Carson. Oh my God, dude, I despise that man. He was the loudest guy there, and it's like when you're out there, even if there's like, I'd say, even if there's 100 people fishing, like everyone's just minding their own business, and you got the one fucking guy that's over there like, oh, I caught this on a Walmart pole. Like, okay, cool. Awesome. I get it. But no, I definitely understand what you're saying, like the rabbit hole and shit. And you start looking into like the ins and outs and like the differences and like, oh, the color or like where it's made or like the structure that it's made from and stuff like that. And then with like fishing poles, it's like you have the pole and then it's like, oh, is a one piece better than a two piece? And then it's like, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna get a one piece. And then you start looking into reels, and then it's like, okay, well, here's a really expensive reel. This is what it does. It's really cool. Awesome. Yeah, no, I'm gonna get that. And then you start looking into line, and then you're like, oh, well, I've been using monofilament. Like maybe I should be using fluorocarbon. And then you start going into that, and then you, oh, I have to start using leaders, and like, oh, well, I don't. Maybe the fish are gonna like these kind of hooks, so I'm gonna start buying these hooks, and then I have to start buying these kind of baits. And dude, it rabbit holes and it spirals. But
Yeah.
I feel like with anything with fishing, hunting, archery, any kind of hobby that you're into, like just there's always a rabbit hole that you can go down, and it's either gonna be toxic or productive. And I'd say in my experience, it's been half and half between toxic and productive because I go down these rabbit holes, and then like especially in Colorado, like when I used to go, like me and the family would go up to like we'd go on like these 4 or 5 hour drives, go up to the mountains, hit up these beautiful lakes that like people would like just dream to even be at.
Mhm.
And then I'm like, okay, I have everything planned out, tackle boxes all set up. I have my 4, 5 rods set up just in case. I throw one rod out, something doesn't work, pick up another one, throw that out. Dude, I've caught less fish than I have actually caught fish. And like I've been in some of the most beautiful places and I've just been scooped. And dude, it's so irritating.
Been there, man. 2021, I went out for the first time with my buddy up in the mountains off of I-70. It's up by like Silverthorne. Dude,
Yeah.
we were only out there for like a 3-day weekend, but like didn't see anything the first day. Second day in the morning, we had gotten some bugles back. Didn't see anything else in the afternoon of the second day, and then left the early in the morning on the third day. And it was just like, dude, it was great hearing the bugles and like being out there. Like we saw a bull moose that did the rack on that bull moose was like easy 6 feet from end to end. And we saw like a lot of it was burn scar from like the years prior. So it was really cool, the new undergrowth that was coming out. And it was a really cool, that's something I tell people all the time, that like I can't feel the same when I'm back in Minnesota, like tree stand hunting whitetail. You go out and you go hunting out here and get skunked, and you're still like on this dope, beautiful trip hiking in the woods, man. It's just like some of those gorgeous outdoors places you'll ever go, you know?
Dude, it's the mountains and the water, man. I absolutely love Colorado. Like I haven't even gotten into like fishing in Colorado and stuff like that, just because it just like I go on these rambles and I just start going on. But like, dude, Colorado probably. And you know what's funny is that when I got to Colorado, I was just like, oh, like I'm glad I'm back in the States now. I really want to get into fishing, but I was in a new state. Well, we all were, and I was just kind of like, fuck this, fuck that. There's mountains there. The mountains are cool. I don't really know about my work life. Like, fuck it. And then one of my friends who I'll give like 100% credit to, Avery
Yeah.
McNeil. He got me into fishing, and he was like, hey, you should go fishing. There's like not too many spots, like little ponds and stuff, not too far from us. And I was like, you know what? Maybe I'll try it out. And then I did, and then it just exploded. And then, me and the family just became like a bunch of traveling gypsies. And every weekend we would just hop in the car and head to the mountains, and I'd find a lake on a map, see a path. The path looks, somewhat drivable. Maybe it has a parking lot, maybe it doesn't. Like, here's where the parking lot ends. Path goes way up here. We'll try it out. And so that's what we did. And then I think it's interesting too, especially because like in the Fort Carson area, like where I used to fish at and stuff, like out there by Townsend on that range road,
Yeah.
where you could go out there for what was it? Was it mule deer? Is that what it was?
Yeah. I was talking mule deer that one night. Yeah.
Yeah, and pronghorn. And then then because with fishing, you talk to the game wardens and stuff, they always come out and they ain't got shit else to do other than fucking talk. So they'll talk to you about everything. And that's what I was telling you about, like the elk herds and stuff, how they hang out by the power plants.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, then you start seeing them. And it's like every night that I would drive out there, I mean, there's pronghorn, there's mule deer, there's herds of elk. Everything's out there. And then you
Yeah.
start talking to people who are, into different things and like hunting and stuff like that. And then you get into like the whole hunting debacle of like what is it? It's like BLM, and then you have like private land or something like that.
Yeah.
You have to
So
like
BLM is like the public land essentially, and then you'll have the private land, and then there's like U.S. National Forest and
yeah.
some other shit that you can like go onto, and there will be differences of like access and then hunting access and like no public access between all the two. So,
Yeah, and I think that's so interesting too, because just at that fishing spot at Townsend, because I used to go there so much. And so like for the people listening, there's a spot called Townsend Reservoir, and it's like from where from where Steven lives now, it's probably like 15 minutes away
yeah.
if it's just a straight drive, no stops. And you kind of have to take a dirt trail to get out there, and then it's not too far out of the way. But it's really beautiful because Fort Carson is like tucked away, like right under the mountains, like underneath at the very base of the mountains. And it's, dude, I remember one time me and Avery were fishing, and we watched like a lightning storm come off the mountains, and it was like here's Townsend, like the fishing spot we were fishing, and like the thunderstorm was just like coming off the mountains back here, and it was just like going around and like going around all of us, and we were like fishing in this lightning. But there was like other people there, and I looked at him and I was like, hey, you want to leave? And he was like, no, we'll be fine. There's like lightning, bam, 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 bam. And but yeah, so like being out there, spending so much time out there, especially, I got to learn kind of like the out of state tags situation and how hunting worked and stuff like that. And I talked to these guys from Ohio, and they had came down all the way down from Ohio, and they were elk hunting out there because it was elk season. And they had their tags from the lottery system or whatever it is, because I think it's like if you pay for an out of state tag, you're more likely to get that actual tag than the people who live within the state because of the whole.
Oh, yeah. People thought it was like a conspiracy theory, and then come to find out, CPW put an article out saying that essentially it does
Yeah.
boil down to that.
No, 100%. And I think, didn't you talk to your I forgot his name because I just finished listening up to that podcast that you did with the first guy, but isn't that kind of the same situation that happens in the state that he's in too?
Oregon, the
Yeah,
guy that I
Oregon.
last one with.
Yeah.
I think they kind of do that shit with every out of state because I was looking into an elk tag in Oregon because he like offered for me to go out there and hunt and shit. And
Hmm.
it's pretty much like $600 across the board for non-res elk tags, whereas like resident prices will be a tenth of that cost, so they're making crazy money, dude. I looked at it just from the difference from like 2021 or 2022's like total buyout of the tags, and they make a difference of like almost $2 or $3 million just from non-res tag buyers.
And that's crazy too because the non-residents are guaranteed that tag, but then the people who live within the state, I think at least in Colorado, they run off the lottery system, right?
Yeah, so if it's not archery, which they're starting to change it now too, but archery is over the counter and it's all of September, but then there's like rifle and muzzleloader seasons, and those are based off of like preference points. So I mean, and then dude, that's another crazy rabbit hole to get down too. I went with last year, I was with one of the kids I coach hockey, his dad. We went up north to elk hunt, and they had brought with this dude who'd been a guide in Colorado for 20, 30 years, man.
Oh, I remember
He's
that. Did I drop you off at that guy's house?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that guy. Yeah.
Yep. So this dude that's a buddy, he's a guide. He's been putting in a preference point for moose for like 40 years or some shit. But he's at the point now where every year he buys one, the next year it goes up one. So he's just chasing the point system by like one. It's like $50 for a preference point.
That's crazy.
So you know what I'm saying? And then even once you've gotten it, once you got all the points, now you have to buy that tag still too.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely insane, dude. It's definitely a money grab, and you wonder where the fuck all that money goes to. And that's something I guess you can find out from like if there's an audit or something from CPW or whatever states, like wildlife conservation officers. But it's just like, man, if that's what's happening, dude, like we should be having way more public land to hunt then, and there should be way more like availability for like either different trips or different like lottery systems or something, man, because they're like clearly profiting a lot off of it. So that I don't get how it's either the same every year or digressing into a worse state of the residents are just continually getting fucked out of
Yeah, exactly. And that's so wild too. Like going back to the guys from Ohio at the lake, and they were just talking about like, oh yeah, like we drove all the way down here from Ohio, and I was talking to this old guy, and he like he kind of pissed me off because like the biggest thing I fucking hate is like when I'm fishing, and then a motherfucker comes and stands 10 feet away from me and starts fishing.
it. Yeah,
If there's 100 miles of shoreline and you see one motherfucker fishing and you want to come up and fish right next to him, that's like having 10 urinals in a fucking bathroom, and then you come and piss in the one that's right next to me that I'm pissing at, that I was there first. Dude, it fucking pisses me off. Like, I hate it. But I try not to be a dickhead or like, I just kind of do my own thing. I don't really like to confront people that in those situations. There's other situations where I'll fucking confront people.
yeah.
My tongue comes out of my fucking mouth a lot of times. But he kind of came up, and because I knew that they were there for a couple of days because I had seen the camper and shit sitting in the parking area. And long story short, I keep going back to it. He was just talking about, oh yeah, like they drove down from Ohio. This motherfucker comes down. It's an old dude, starts fishing, like literally 5 feet away from me, strikes up a conversation, and I'm like, dude, what the fuck? And so he starts talking to me, and then he kind of like went into the whole like the reason why they came down from Ohio, and it's because of the out of state tags and stuff like that, and then the out of state tags coupled with something to do with on post, and then someone in their family was a veteran, and then so they like basically like if you pay an out of state tag, obviously you're guaranteed to get that fucking tag and go hunt. But then like something with Fort Carson, and they were able to like they were guaranteed to hunt and like fish and do whatever, no matter what. So they
Yep.
were basically with like no holds bars. They were allowed to do whatever they want because they paid to be there. And I was like, oh yeah, that's cool. And so that's kind of like where that conversation started from. And then 5 minutes after that guy left, I caught my biggest fish. And he was
Yes,
like,
dude.
but and it's funny because it goes into like a whole nother conversation about like fishing in different waters, and it doesn't matter if there's a lake over here and then you cross the road and there's a lake over here. What worked at this lake might not work at this one, and so it's like you never fucking know. And because I told him, because he was like, oh, he's because I was just ripping fish out of the water, and they were small trout, and he was like, what are you using? And I showed him, and it was just a drop shot setup with a little, I can't remember the weight at the bottom, but and then I showed him like the little Berkeley minnow that I was using and stuff like that. He's like, oh, that's pretty cool. I was like, yeah, man. I was like, you just hook it up, you just throw it in the water, yank it out. And I was like, it only works when I'm in this exact spot, this exact place. So I was like, maybe it'll work for you, maybe it won't. I was like, but it should though. And so he's like, oh yeah, cool. Fucking leaves, hops in his truck. Him and his sons drive away, and I caught a fucking 3.5 pound rainbow trout. Like, oh my god.
Damn.
That thing was huge. That's the biggest fish I've caught. And like for me, I say like 3.5 pounds is the biggest fish I caught, but like for as hard as I fished in Colorado for the 2 years that I was there, like 3.5 pounds, like I should have came out with more than that. But you know,
You got pictures or what?
yeah, I do. I can send it to you.
Yeah,
Maybe you
definitely do it.
can.
I'll put it in when I finish the video up. That's freaking sweet, dude.
Yeah, dude, it was so cool. But I love that spot too, and I love fishing just in general because it's like an outlet. So it's like an outlet, and then I can take my family, and then they all enjoy it. And if the kids don't want to fish, they can just fuck off and run around on the beach, play with trees, rocks, whatever the fuck kids do. Try to eat bugs. I don't.
Yeah,
Okay, like
absolutely.
oh, here's some power bait. You want to throw it out? Like, oh no, Dad, I want to go eat bugs. Like, okay, go eat bugs. Then they just
Go do
fuck off.
it. Oh
But
yeah.
yeah, dude, Colorado is so cool. I love that place. So many mountain lakes to go to. So many hikes to go on. One of my dreams in Colorado is to go back to Colorado actually, and like hike up to like a 14,000 foot lake that's like up in the mountains where like
Yeah.
you have to like camp up there and then camp down, all that stuff, and then yeah, so that'd be cool. But yeah, so after I got to Colorado and then met you and we became fucking best buds pretty much, and then I ended up going on rotation last year to Europe. And so I was with obviously 4th ID, 3rd Brigade. We went on a Europe rotation. We went to Poland first, and then we actually stayed in Poland for 2 months, and then we went up to and I actually fished in Poland, and I have a picture of me in uniform fishing in Poland. I didn't catch a fish though. I'll send it to you too. You can put that in. And then we went up to Lithuania. And funny story about Lithuania, there was actually a lake on base, and so where we stayed at was like our barracks. They're called CHUs, like central housing units. They were basically like connexes, but they had 2 windows and an AC unit, and it was really nice. And so you had like the CHUs up here, and then you had like the motor pool right here, which is where all the vehicles are, and then over here was the lake, and I think the lake was like exactly a mile away from where the barracks were. So it's only a 15-minute walk there, 15-minute walk back, not too bad. And me and Avery McNeil went out there. We used to go fishing all the time. And it's funny because it doesn't matter where I go, I always have a fishing pole on me because any body of water can be fished. Like,
Yep.
that's my goal. And especially in like a military like perspective, like survival standpoint, it's like if I have a fishing pole and I can pack it with all of my gear and still be sustainable, like to conduct the mission and all that. But then we're able to go out to the field and I have a fishing pole, and we all know how resupplies go and how logistics is very unreliable at certain points. And it's like, okay, well, guess what? I'm getting paid to go fish and provide for everyone else. So that's
Yeah.
kind of my mindset on it. But I got to go fishing out there, and then caught a couple of fish in Lithuania, so that was cool. But that's about as far as the extent of my international fishing trip. But
Yeah.
they have a class on post here in June, the beginning of June, but for Americans to get their fishing license. But my wife is also due around that time, so it's like I'm going to sign up for the class, but I might start the class, which is it's only 3 days long, but I might start the class and then like my wife might pop and then I might have to wait a couple more months for another class. So it's like, I don't know. I guess we'll see. But
Man, that's wild. That sucks that it's so like inopportune to be able to like get people their licenses or certified to get their licenses out there. Do you think they'd be able to work that better, especially when it's a base that's outside the continental United States?
yeah, well, I will say the MWR program here, they take like I think it's a 3 week course for the Germans and they break it down into 3 days. And through
Oh,
the
damn.
God and Gun Club, like I was talking about earlier, they're able to just kind of cut some things out, cater more to the Americans because they're English speaking people, and then give you the license because you paid to be there, and then they're more willing to help you out. But the problem is they only have the classes certain days of the month, certain months out of the year. Like I think in total they only have like 4 or 5 classes a year, so that's 4 to 5 months out of 12 months.
Yeah,
So like, if you're on rotation or if you're going to training or something like that, then it's like it's hard to catch up on.
right. Yeah, absolutely. So then how long until you guys are out of Germany or like roughly until you're back in the States?
The end of 2025. So another 2.5-ish years.
Damn. Like you've been there
Yeah,
forever already, man. That's
I
crazy.
know. I know, dude. But the cool thing is like, especially like living over here, if I could just get my German fishing license, then I'll be able to fish, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever. But the best part about being here in Germany is like Germany is so centralized. Like I have fishing destinations booked out, not booked out, but like mapped out. Like if you look up Lake Como in Italy, it's in the mountains of Italy, and it's only a 6 hour drive away from where I am. And so it's like, boom, you and everywhere else except for Germany, you can buy a license online. So I can go to Czech Republic, buy a license online. I can go to Italy, buy a license online, go fish in Lake Como in Italy, and go bass fishing there, which is only 6 hours away. Then I can go up north to the Baltic Sea. I can go fish saltwater stuff with a saltwater license there. I can go to France. I can go to Austria. I can go to Switzerland. I can do fly fishing in Switzerland. I mean, dude,
Oh,
it's so amazing and it's so awesome. But it's like this year is kind of a slow year for us because of the baby coming and like new work schedule and stuff like that. So it's
yeah.
like next year, once tax returns hits, that's when we're like really gonna just ball out and go do all of our fun trips. And I especially want to go fish in London because London is built off of waterways. And
Hmm.
so like inner city fishing in London, oh dude, that'd be so cool. And then
That'd be
Amsterdam too. That's like one of my bucket list places to fish. Because I love fishing in places where like people don't expect you to fish at. And it's
yeah.
like I mean it's like imagine like walking next to a river to go to work every day and then you see someone fishing and someone pulls a fish out and you're like, what the fuck? There's fish in there? It's like, yeah, motherfucker, the fuck what did you think lived in there? Like like submersible homeless people? Like no, there's fish. There's all kinds
Hell
of
yeah.
life and environment out there, and I just love it, dude. Fishing is so cool, not only fishing is cool, but just everything is cool, man. Everything hunting and outdoors, like fishing. I love hunting. Hunting is actually something I would love to get into once I get back to the States, dude. Oh my God, it'd be so awesome.
Time, I'll take you out. I'm Kobe will take you out, dude. You got all sorts of people around that'll take you out, dude. Dude. And what's
Yeah,
wild too? I had no idea. So I only became part of the podcast like within the past year or two, and I
yeah,
found out from my buddy from the statistics, dude. Like a bunch of people in Germany listen to the podcast. I have no
really.
idea why the reach is there, but at the end of the video, I'll put like the Instagram and the email we have for the podcast and see if any of these guys that listen to it reach out, dude, and see if I can't somehow connect you guys together. Because I mean, that's really the whole point of doing something like this. Is it's not like I'm talking to like Steve Ranella from Meat Eater and like Joe Rogan and shit about hunting. I'm talking to like my homies and trying to make that, trying to like paint the biggest picture I can possible with as many people as
Yeah,
I
exactly.
get a hold of. So, but we're coming up close on time, so I'll
Heck yeah,
cut it
man.
here. And hopefully by the next time I'm able to do an episode with you. You got your license, you got a new kid, and get out there and get me some stories of fishing out in Germany, man.
Heck yeah, man. I'm excited, dude. And if for some reason between now and the next podcast something happens, I'll keep you updated, send you pictures, and then we'll fucking talk about it all again. I love this shit. I'm so happy for your podcast, man. I'm so happy that you're doing it. Fucking awesome. Wild
Hey,
Minnesota podcast, baby. Woo.
appreciate it, brother. Take it easy, man.
You too.
Hey,
Later.
brother.
Hey everybody, it's Steven from the Wild Minnesota Podcast. I just want to say thank you for the love and support that we've received over the past few weeks, and to like and subscribe when watching the channel. Peace.